Now, this chapter turned out so different than I'd ever expect. I think a good 99% of the community are in complete agreement with you when you say that. Many people had many theories about what Sukuna wanted with Megumi. People thought it was Megumi's technique, Shikigami, his butthole, the Maharaga, but actually it turns out it was actually just his body. This is Gege's ultimate plot twist in the series. We all knew something bad was coming from the moment that Bind and Vow was created, and Gege waited for so long to let the audience forget about it, or at the very least push it to the back of our mind by presenting us with even more pressing issues, i.e. the Culling games, Kenjaku, and all for him to just be like, wham, smack us in the face with arguably the biggest, one of the biggest plot twists in Jujutsu Kaisen. And honestly, I've been thinking this for a little while now, but this chapter truly cemented the Culling games as an overall better arc for me personally than Shibuya. And I know that's probably going to anger a lot of people in the comments down below, and feel free to debate me on that, but me personally right now, Shibuya was great. I don't take away from that at all. But right now, the Culling games has everything and more, and it has been a phenomenal read. It's time for Takaba to shine. I fully agree. I am in the mind that Takaba's introduction was made to bring him face to face with Sukuna. Theoretically, right now in the series, Takaba is the only person with the group who was able to, at the very least, slow down Sukuna with his technique, which is my theory for what may happen next. And honestly, there is a lot that can happen next, but this is just one of the theories that could potentially happen next. I believe Takaba will arrive to protect Yuji and allow him to get away from Sukuna, but will ultimately fall to Sukuna once Sukuna figures out his technique. And you might be sat there wondering why Takaba, that dude is an absolute clown, and you're absolutely correct, but I do want to bring your attention to when Takaba fought Hazanoki. We learned his curse technique is something that could oppose even Gojo Satoru, a technique that brings whatever he believes to be funny into reality. And if that can oppose Gojo, you can bet your sweet baby it can oppose Sukuna until Liam figures it out and gets rid of him at least. Because when you bring in a character like Takaba, who has now officially broken the fourth wall in the series, you need to be very careful with how you handle him and how you handle such an incredibly open-ended technique like that. Because the theory that could be made that yes, Takaba can oppose Gojo Satoru, and yes, by that default he could most likely oppose Sukuna, but then when you really start digging into it, you make nonsensical arguments, which again can trigger almost any fan in the Jujutsu Kaisen fanbase by saying Takaba could just believe it'd be funny if Rika disappeared when he fought Yuta, or Takaba could just believe it'd be funny if Sukuna's arms turned into floppy flailing dildos. You know what I'm saying? It gets to like a certain point where with Takaba's power and his unique ability that if he believes it's funny, it is going to be reality, and those arguments are going to be made for Takaba no matter who he fights. So I think Gege needs to be very careful with how he brings in Takaba into fights, as well as how he's going to potentially write Takaba going forward. And for me personally, I think that this is the only option for Takaba, because again, you don't want to take away the shine of the main villain that you've built up by some random dude who is a literal comedian that was brought in for one arc only. But I would like to see Takaba face off against Sukuna, but ultimately die trying to oppose Sukuna. What if Kenjaku is Sukuna's brain from 1,000 years ago and they're just trying to reunite? Honestly, I actually really like this theory. There's a few plot holes, but I think it's reasonable to assume that someone of Sukuna's level is powerful enough to keep their conscious or soul alive throughout the years through sheer force of will. And if we have a look at some of the evidence for this, Kenjaku and Urumi have been working together for a while now. Urumi is actively working to free Sukuna, as we know. And Kenjaku did once say that the soul is the body and the body the soul. However, that was just a theory, and I don't know whether that was actual confirmation from Kenjaku. But as of this chapter, today with 212, we saw Sukuna forcibly take over another body by seemingly pouring his cursed energy into a finger and force feeding it to Megumi. For all we know, Sukuna may have poured his soul into that finger also. So it is a very interesting theory overall. However, what we have to think about is that if Kenjaku is, for example, Sukuna's brain, then that means somehow Sukuna managed to split his consciousness between his soul and his brain, separating the two. It's not entirely impossible, but I'm not sure how it could also be possible having one being split into two, sort of like a Horcrux from Harry Potter with Voldemort. I'm not quite sure how it could work. There's a few plot holes, but also there's a few evidences pieces there suggesting that that might be the case. Yuji isn't normal, and I don't even think he's fully human. Yeah, I think it's pretty much assumed and safe to say that Yuji was 100% not fully human. I mean, Kenjaku is literally his mother, father, daddy person, and we know that Kenjaku is also Father Choso, who is a cursed womb death painting, which is the combination of between human and cursed spirits. So to further hammer this point home, Yuji was an absolute beast from the get-go, even before eating the first finger from Sukuna. He literally jumped from the ground floor to the 4th floor in the very first volume of Jujutsu Kaisen of the school, with Megumi even noting that this is literally the 4th floor. How did this dude just jump from the ground up? Like, what kind of absolute mutant motherfucker is Yuji from the get-go here? And he also even mentioned just how ridiculously powerful Yuji's raw strength is, with Yuji punching a cursed spirit after just meeting it for the first time. I think it is a safe bet to say that Yuji is some part cursed spirit at the very, very least. But as Yuji having more of a part to play, I think you're right in some regards and wrong in others. I don't think he is the bombshell that Kenjaku was referring to. I do think he does still have a part to play, and a lot of people I've seen are quite angry about Yuji potentially being written out of the series, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think this is going to happen now. Yuji will still have a part to play in this series, and that part will be to defeat Sukuna or die trying, going out the martyr. Don't forget, there is still that one line of Yuji with Gojo about him one day inheriting Sukuna's technique. We might possibly be just about to see that in this next chapter. At this point, it is all up in the air. However, for the people who are angry about Yuji potentially being written out of the story this early, so they say, I have to disagree. I don't think Sukuna is actually going to harm Yuji at all. Sukuna has done nothing but want to make Yuji suffer, and I think what more could Sukuna do to hammer this home than 1, take over his best friend's body, and then 2, make that best friend's body literally kill murder every person that is close to Yuji. I don't think Sukuna is going to kill Yuji at all. I think Yuji is going to be left alive to suffer a very dark and grisly fate, but I don't think he's going out anytime soon. But this chapter, in my opinion, was Gege's absolute masterpiece. This was years of build-up, years of teasers, character development, storytelling. It all led to this one chapter. This one chapter where the bad guys again seemingly get a win. Plot twist that almost no one saw coming. Like, this chapter was literally trending on Twitter. That's how big this was. And what's even better is that we're getting chapter 213 this week. There's no break. Gege's just continuing to cook a full fucking banquet for us, which is insane. However, I will say one thing though. For those of you in doubt that the series was truly ending this year, even though Gege has explicitly said it multiple times and has said it for a while now, are you still unsure about whether this series is going to end this year? Do you still think Jujutsu ends this year, or do you think it continues after this year? And if so, what more could we possibly get after this? But that is everything from me. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below, and make sure you have liked the video and make sure you subscribe, and also consider becoming a member because that helps support and keep the dream alive. But as always, I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, bye bye.